I know the obvious that you guys are probably here for the other topics, which we will get back to soon enough. I'm preparing several things. However, I do cover other things, and alas, this is a very sad, tragic example, but I do try to cover other things going on in Hollywood, fantasy, fandom, so on and so forth. So I was speaking about Aubrey, unfortunately, initially, because she is the more famous partner in the relationship. I know her work fairly well. Not seen everything, but and usually like her stuff. She's a very interesting, snarky, very pretty actress. I'm not gonna lie, I have a bit of a crush on her, and I honestly didn't even know this. So yeah, this is all very sad. This is like a rush of information. I was like, oh, she's married. I didn't know she was married. So yeah, let's get to it. So her latest thing was Agatha with the MCU. I'm a little mixed on it. I liked her, like her what she does in it, I don't even wanna say, it was very interesting. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty interesting." So, yeah, Aubrey's a very great performer, very funny, very, very interesting performer. But let us get, unfortunately, to the very big tragic news. Her husband, and this is official, again, I'm not gonna whine about this too much, but the LAPD is very corrupt. It has a lot of ties to Scientology. There is no Scientology link. I'm just noting a fact. It's very corrupt. However, through the LAPD and other people, it has been confirmed. Apparently, Jeff's assistant found him. They found his dead body via a hanging at this time, but maybe it'll be revised. So it appears what it appears to be. I can't even say the cause of death because YouTube is very sensitive about the S word, but that apparently is the cause of death, and it's pretty shocking. Now, I guess the good, bad side is yes, they were married only a few years ago, but Aubrey and her husband Jeff Baena. I hope I am not destroying the name, but unfortunately, I do know his work a little bit. When I was looking through it, I was like, oh, like I Heart Huckabees is actually literally it's one of my favorite movies. It is very mixed. It is a very mixed bag, but I like it. So he contributed to that. So I'm like, oh wow, really interesting. Yeah. So it is a very interesting film. I do recommend that, but it is it's chaotic. And he did some work with Ben Stiller on some things as well. His main thing is as a director. I have not seen any of his directed films, but they look very interesting. So he and Aubrey go back to 2011. So hopefully they had a very long, good relationship. So they've been together a while, but they officially became married just a few years ago. Kind of an impromptu thing, apparently. And Aubrey, at this point, is scheduled to be on the Golden Globes this Sunday. So I can only imagine, will she do it? Will she pull out? I hope the Golden Globes, because this has just happened, so hopefully they will be able to pull off a little tribute to him. The Sundance Film Festival has given out a very good tweet. Sundance, for those who don't know, are very new to Hollywood. It's a place where indie screenwriters and directors go. I'm trying to get into Hollywood, so, but again, what you're going to get from me is the brutal truth. At this point, Sundance is very corporate. It is very corporate. However, it's very nice and touching that they put out a tweet. Mark also put out a tweet. He's a very good comedian. I used to love his podcast. I was very addicted to it. It's great stuff, great interviews, but I just gotten so busy. But yeah, he always does incredible interviews. So I'm definitely going to look up his interview with Jeff. It's just very sad because my own life, I just keep losing people. I've lost people recently and in the past, friends and family, and I just had a recently really terrible injury, like several injuries actually. So it's interesting, but I was actually getting a little bit of optimistic near Christmas and even into the New Year's. It's still bad in my where I am financially, medically, and all that, but I'm like, oh, things are not so. I got to be honest, this news is depressing. I'm like, wow, because this is kind of what ideally I would have wanted, like a nice Hollywood career. Seems like a good relationship. Things are moving up. You have good projects, and it's just it's really shocking because again, I mean, I honestly didn't know. I've listened to a few Aubrey interviews, so maybe I maybe needed to listen closer. I don't think she ever brought him up, so it's interesting. I guess this is just well known in that community. Like, yeah, oh, yeah, she's married, but I honestly didn't know. I thought she was single, and she's very politically active. She pushed against this kind of Trump comedian who was mocking some of the Latino community. Good on her. I am also Latino, so yeah, this is all very Very, very shocking, sad news. Obviously, Aubrey is the more famous partner in the relationship, but he has done a lot of work. He's been in the industry, apparently for decades. I didn't even know he existed, but if you are into indie stuff, you probably came across his work. He's done these kind of interesting horror comedies, dramas, and other work. His screenwriter work, ironically, I do know because I really do know I Heart Huckabees because I'm a big David O. Russell fan. And David O. Russell is a very controversial figure, but I do enjoy his work. I really emulate and love his style. He is a very troublesome, controversial figure, but I do admire him. And this is obviously just a very difficult topic because obviously you want to send condolences and feel sorry for Aubrey and reach out to her and say, "Oh, sorry." But at the same time, you're like, "Wow, this is such a sensitive issue." And again, at this time, this is what we know of. Maybe the cause of death will be different. Maybe he was suffering from drugs, maybe from cancer. We just don't know. We need more information. But at this point, his death has been confirmed. And it's very sad, but Aubrey has had these very huge public projects like Agatha. Agatha, again, for most people was huge. It was very good. It's very successful. I've only seen the beginning of it. I am, frankly, at this point, not very impressed. But Aubrey, as always, does a very stunning work, and so it's just really shocking because it does seem like both their careers were growing bigger, and so it's very shocking. It's very shocking. Like, what could have prompted this? But it just goes to show people have this very shallow look at even Hollywood and saying, well, they're all the same. They're all very corrupt. They have all this money and power. They're above the clouds. Nothing really affects them. They're, to put it mildly, people have a very low opinion of the average Hollywood person. But the other side of the table is, no, it's just a lot of good people just trying to put out creative things. Yeah, there is that aspect, of course, the money, the corruption, ranking, and a lot of backbiting and backstabbing. Like, I've been around some of those people, actors in theater, as well as some people in the industry. I'm not trying to brag, as well as the music industry, and it is tough. They've told me some horror stories. It is really brutal, and you have to be really careful entering the industry. But there is that other side of it that it can be very joyful and very affirming to just find people and just put out good stuff and just try to grow projects and really put something out there that people appreciate. And so it's very strange because it just seems that their lives were fine, both financially and professionally, and yet this happened. And so I don't even want to speculate why it happened yet until we get more. But yeah, it's very sad. It seems like he was a very well respected figure. Nobody has anything bad to say about him. So seems like a nice, good guy. Had a good love relationship. Like I said, I Heart Huckabees is very good writing, but it is very weird. So he definitely is extremely talented. Because again, I Heart Huckabees is hated now, but I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for it, but it definitely is very flawed. But it definitely shows a lot of promise that if he was behind a lot of the writing, then yeah, this guy is definitely very, very talented. So I could only imagine in the future he might have created something just mind blowing, and we will not have access to it. But we won't even see. I mean, presumably he maybe had a few scripts or other projects in motion, and I don't know if that's going to be his issue or Aubrey has control of the estate. It's a lot of questions now. Yeah, do we finish his projects? Do they get abandoned? Does she have control over the projects? As far as I know, she hasn't put out a statement. So this just happened a few hours ago. So this is breaking news. So all I can say is, rest in peace. And obviously, my heart goes out to Aubrey. I can only say from my memory, I don't think she brought him up that much. So I guess they just wanted to keep this not private, but it's like, married. It is what it is. She's spoken about their wedding, so it's not like, oh, she never talks about it. But I didn't even know she was married. So yeah, it's a very touchy issue. I guess we can only be respectful and say, yeah, sorry for the passing. But yeah, obviously this is a very difficult, tense thing, and it really hits home to me because I'm first of all a writer, and this is kind of the ideal job I would have wanted. I don't mind being an actor or being more in front of the camera, but yeah, I kind of would have preferred being a screenwriter slash writer slash director. And yeah, it's very shocking that people think that's the ideal job in the universe, but it can also be very stressful. So I can only imagine why this happened. It's so dramatic too, the way he died. So it's just all very sad. But hopefully we will learn a little bit more details, but be sensitive to what is happening with her. So rest in peace, and of course, condolences to Aubrey, and hopefully she will work through this because this is. I can only imagine how devastating this is. It's all very, very sad.